morning Year 6 and welcome to today's maths video. Today we're going to continue to learn to illustrate and explain equivalent ratios. So first of all, I'd like to do Fluent in 5. Please pause the video and have a go. Hopefully you pause the video. Let's look. So we've got 93.813, then number 2 is 9, 3 is 7/12, 4 is 2,296 and 5 is 1,110. Well done if you got those right. So let's go through some again together. We'll work through it and then there'll be some for you to do independently. So Ella has 4 red apples and 8 green apples. The ratio of the number of red apples to the number of green apples is 4 to 8. For every 4 red apples, there are 8 green apples. There are 2 trays of red apples and 4 trays of green apples. The ratio of the number of red apples to the number of green apples can also be called 2 to 4. So just a minute ago, it was 4 to 8 because we had 4 individual red apples to 8 individual green apples. But we can also group it as 2 to 4 because we have 2 trays and 4 trays. We can still compare it. It's still the same number of apples, but it's an equivalent ratio. 4 to 8 is the same as 2 to 4. Next, she puts 4 apples of the same colour on each tray. So she's still got the same number of apples, but this time she's put 4 on one tray, and she's had to do the same. It's got to be equal, but she can still put her green apples onto trays of 4. As a result now, the ratio of the number of red apples to the number of green apples is 1 to 2, because there is 1 tray of red apples to 2 trays of green apples. Now this tells us that those 3 ratios are equivalent. The 3 ratios, 4 to 8, 2 to 4 and 1 to 2, compare the same number of red and green apples. Throughout, the number of red and green apples stayed the same. It was just how we represented them, how we grouped them that changed. So their ratios are equivalent. 4 to 8 is the same as 2 to 4, which is the same as 1 to 2. The ratio, the relationship between those numbers is the same. 1 to 2, though, is the ratio in its simplest form. If you think back to fractions, because fractions and ratios are very similar, when you found the simplest form of a fraction, it's the same. You're finding the simplest form of a ratio. Because with this ratio, you could talk about 10 to 20, but 1 to 2 is its simplest form. So there are 2 trays of red apples in this one, 4 trays, or 1 tray and 2 trays, or 4 apples and 8 apples. But it all compares the same number of apples. Here we've got, what is the ratio of the number of pencils to the number of board pins? See if you can work out the ratio for me quickly. So the ratio, we need to count the individual items, and we have 6. The number of pencils is 6, and the number of board pins is 12. So the number of pencils to the number of board pins is 6 to 12. The ratio of the number of pencils to the number of board pins. Now what can we call it this time? Just a minute ago we called it 6 to 12, but look at how they are grouped now. Look at how many groups of each we have. Again, equal groups, but how many groups? What is the new ratio? So we could also say 3 to 6. The ratio of the number of pencils to the number of board pins can also be called 3 to 6. So we had 6 to 12. The same number of pencils and the same number of board pins can also be grouped in the ratio 3 to 6. What about now? Look carefully now. The ratio of the number of pencils represented in this diagram to the number of board pins is what? So hopefully you came up that it was 1 to 2. 1 group of pencils to 2 groups of board pins. And again, notice that our groups are equal. There are 6 in this and there are 6 in this. And earlier, there were 2 in each group, 2 in each group. The groups are equal. That tells us that, whichever way we represent it, the ratios are equal because the number of items has stayed the same. 6 to 12, 1 to 2, and 3 to 6. Sorry, I stumbled then. So the ratios are all equivalent. 6 to 12, 3 to 6, and 1 to 2. The ratio 6 to 12 shows the actual number of pencils and board pins, but the ratio in its simplest form is 1 to 2. So this is your challenge now. I'd like to have a go at this independently. I'll read it through, I'll go through each challenge, and then we will go through the answers. So the ratio of the number of cakes in group A to the number of cakes in group B is what? The ratio of the number of cake boxes in group A to the number of cake boxes in group B is what? The equivalent ratios are, so you have to give me two ratios that are equivalent, and the ratio in its simplest form. So you'll have found two ratios, which one is the simplest form? Then next one, the ratio of the number of lollies in group A to the number of lollies in group B is? The ratio of the number of lolly packets in group A and the number of lolly packets in group B. Then what are the two equivalent ratios and what is the ratio in its simplest form? Well, so I'll go through the answers now. Hopefully you've done both. If you haven't, go back and do both challenges and I'll go through the answers for you. So, the answers. The number of cakes in group A is 4 and the number of cakes in group B is 8 because there are 4 in group A and 8 in group B. So our ratio is 4 to 8. The ratio of the number of cake boxes is 1 to 2 because there is one box here and 2 boxes in group B. So the two equivalent ratios are 4 to 8 for actual items or 1 to 2 of the boxes. But the ratio in its simplest form is 1 to 2. Then for lollies, the ratio of the number of lollies in group A to the number of lollies in group B is 18 to 27 because there are 18 in group A and 27 in group B. The ratio of the number of lolly packets in group A to the number of lolly packets in group B is 6 to 9 because there are 6 packets and 9 packets. The equivalent ratios are 18 to 27 and 6 to 9. However, this one, it actually needed simplifying even further to find it in its simplest form. You'll notice that both 6 and 9 are in the 3 times table. If you divide both of those by 3, you end up with 2 to 3. So the simplest form of the ratio is not 6 to 9, it's 2 to 3. And if you were to look, you could group 2 with 3, 2 with 3, and 2 with 3. So you could have put them into groups to end up with your 2 to 3. 2 with 3. Or split it into 2 and 3 in a group. So the simplest form of the ratio is 2 to 3. Well done, I'll see you tomorrow.